The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the David Pakman Show. I am glad you have chosen an alternative to the three-letter news networks and the four-letter words that you should be saying after watching the three-letter news networks because of the sheer nonsense that's happening, Lewis.
That's right. It's bad news over there. Excuse the pun.
We talked yesterday about this story involving Kansas City Chiefs Jovan Belcher, who, I don't know if allegedly is the right word, but I guess legally we're still supposed to say allegedly, by all reasonable accounts, shot and killed his girlfriend and then committed suicide with a different gun. And yesterday I briefly talked about the Bob Costas clip. Bob Costas, of course, the sports reporter. He went on TV and he issued the following statement, which we played yesterday, about guns. The statement immediately started being criticized by the right wing as a gun control rant. Okay, now just to refresh your memory, here is the Bob Costas statement that is the subject of the controversy. Take a listen.
Actual perspective on this? Well, a bit of it comes from the Kansas City-based writer Jason Whitlock, with whom I do not always agree, but who today said it so well that we may as well just quote or paraphrase from the end of his article. Our current gun culture, Whitlock wrote, ensures that more and more domestic disputes will end in the ultimate tragedy, and that more convenience store confrontations over loud music coming from a car will leave more teenage boys bloodied and dead. Handguns do not enhance our safety. They exacerbate our flaws, tempt us to escalate arguments, and bait us into embracing confrontation rather than avoiding it.
Okay, so he went on a little more, but again, he was basically just quoting an article that was written by someone else, and we talked about it yesterday. Fine. Turns out that overnight this has continued to blow up. The right-wingers are going absolutely out of their minds over this, and there was actually a segment involving NRA CEO Wayne LaPierre. And I don't know, this seems to be NRA news. Apparently there's an NRA show of some kind, and they're going completely off the map, even going as far as to suggest that the solution here, Lewis, is not gun control. It is not anything other than what? That Jovan Belcher's girlfriend should have herself been armed and able to therefore shoot back or shoot to defend herself. This is incredible. Let's get into the video. This is, again, as I mentioned, from, I guess the NRA has a show. It's called NRA News or something like that. And here is Wayne LaPierre, the current CEO, along with the host and another reporter. Let's take a listen.
Here tonight, Wayne, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Hey, good to be with you, Cam.
You bet. Millions of Americans tuned in to watch football last night, instead getting a lecture on gun control by Bob Costas after the murder-suicide involving the NFL player Jovan Belcher. What's your reaction to all of this?
Well, it's kind of like my phone started ringing the minute it happened, and I started getting all kinds of communications from people just disgusted. I mean, they tune in to watch a sporting event, and meanwhile, what they get in regard to this cold-blooded murder that took place is they get a national sportscaster whining about his social agenda that he wants adopted to ban firearms and ban handguns.
Okay, so that's the introduction there, and then I want to skip to the actual key part here. But Lewis, this is just such nonsense because we know that what Bob Costas said is just logical. We know that there are fights, there are disagreements, blah, 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 blah. Ready and free access to not one but multiple guns makes it so that you can just more easily reach for a gun and shoot someone during an argument. This is not to, people start saying, well, if he had stabbed her to death, would we be trying to ban knives? And making arguments like that. We're not saying that not having the gun would have prevented violence. What we're saying is that the gun offers immediate and often irrevocable death in the heat of an argument, and that's what we don't want.
Right. This is a popular opinion, and this guy's acting as if Bob Costas, who was quoting someone,
right,
is somehow trying to rid the U.S. of all weapons.
And impose some kind of social agenda. Now let's go to the key part here where Mr. LaPierre suggests, hey, the solution here is that she should have had a gun. The girlfriend should have had a gun. Take a look.
Whitlock, and he's saying that handguns do not enhance safety.
And let me just correct here. This female journalist is going to initially make the point, and then Wayne LaPierre is going to agree with her. Take a listen.
You said all you got to do is ask one of the armed citizens who looks you right in the eye every time you talk to them, and they'll say to you, you know what, if I didn't have that firearm with me, I wouldn't be here talking to you. And as you mentioned, the victim, I mean, she was totally defenseless against this 6-foot guy that weighs 240 pounds. What if she had a firearm?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, the fact is, and we know other countries. I mean, you look at the suicide rates in other countries. I mean, my gosh, the U.S. there's not even in the top.
Okay, so there he goes. That's right. She should have had a gun. The solution here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the girlfriend should have had a gun.
Because when you're walking around the house with your 3-month-old daughter,
yeah,
logically, you should be carrying a firearm.
You should probably be carrying two. You should probably have one gun in a holster and then probably something in your sock.
This goes along with a lot of right-wing talking points as that there's no nuance.
No, the NRA, where the solution to guns is more guns to shoot the people that have guns. It's kind of blame the victim, too. Let me say that. She should have had a gun. She shouldn't have worn that skirt. He shouldn't have been acting so gay. He shouldn't have worn a hoodie, right? It's not as direct, but if we really look at the nuance here, the problem was she didn't have a gun. That would have been the solution.
Right. There is this assumption that if you have a gun, that a crisis will automatically be averted. Just
and this was talked about in the Batman thing.
Right. Right.
If more people in the theater had guns, they could have fired back. A shootout in a dark room. That would have been the solution.
Yeah, not to mention the smoke grenades the guy threw in. Clearly, that makes perfect sense.
If the only way for American citizens to feel safe is to have guns on them at all times, we have failed as a country. If women can only be safe when they have guns, we have failed as men, right? This goes way beyond the logistics of who has which guns. This is a broader issue here, where if the solutions have to be in more people carrying guns at all times, we're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. Despicable stuff from the NRA.